Okay. So I'm going to get everybody to take their seats. Oh, we're missing. We're missing Mr. Darrow. Where did he go? Yeah, we're just missing Jeff Darrow. Is he around? Mr. Darrow? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Here he is. We're all in our blue. Ah, he must have got the memo too. Okay, good. Most excellent. Okay. The regular meeting of the Leeward Planning Commission will now come to order. This is Thursday, October 17th, 2024, and the time is 9:40 a.m. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. Thank you to all the IT help we had this morning. I'd like to introduce the commissioners. We have Commissioner Dean Au. We have Commissioner Mike De La Cruz.
Good morning.
We have Commissioner Donna Kaneko Noborikawa. Aloha. And we have Commissioner Armando Rodriguez.
Good morning.
Vice Chair Pashan Duarte and Commissioner Clement C.J. Kanua are absent and excused. And I am Chairperson Barbara DeFranco, and we have a quorum to hold this meeting. From the Office of Corporation Counsel, we have Deputy Corporation Counsel Susanna Tiapula. Aloha. We have Deputy Counsel Jean Campbell. And representing the Planning Department, we have Deputy Planning Director Jeffrey Darrow.
Good morning.
Who's present to advise the commission. Okay, the commissioners, please confirm that you've had the opportunity to review the materials related to the application being reviewed today. And just nod your head, say yes, we did.
Yes.
Okay. Mike, yes, okay. I note that each commissioner has verbally confirmed having had an opportunity to review application materials and all submitted testimony. Just a bit of housekeeping for you to make sure everybody's turned their cell phones off. The public restrooms and drinking fountains are available outside the entrance doors to the right. If there's anyone here in person who would like to testify, please make sure you fill out the yellow sign-up forms at the staff table. And also, if you have any written testimony that has not been sent in earlier, you may submit it now to the staff. Okay, approval of the minutes, introducing September 19th, 2024 minutes to be approved. And I ask if there's any corrections. May I ask for a motion to approve as circulated?
Motion to accept.
And a second, please.
Second.
So Commissioner De La Cruz and seconded by Commissioner Au. The minutes of September 19th, 2024 has been approved. Oh, sorry, a discussion. So we have a discussion to vote. Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Okay, the motion carries. They are approved. Statements from the public. As stated in the publicized agenda, members of the public may provide public testimony regarding any agenda item now or at the time the agenda item is called to order. Testifiers on Zoom, please keep your video camera off and audio muted until you are called by the Zoom host to speak. Please note this is not an in-person, this is an in-person meeting. The Zoom platform and the YouTube live stream are provided as a courtesy. Before we start to receive public testimony pursuant to Rule 1-5 of the Planning Commission Rules of Practice and Procedure, I would like to remind everyone to be courteous and respectful of all testifiers, staff members, and commissioners. Please direct all testimony to me as the chair. Testimony will be limited to 3 minutes per testifier for each agenda item. Okay, statements from the public. Are there any in-person testifiers?
Chair DeFranco, we have nobody in person that wants to testify.
Okay. And on Zoom, do we have anybody on Zoom that wants to testify now?
Chair DeFranco,
No.
we don't have any Zoom testifiers.
Okay, very good. So today we're going to have a coastal management and special management area SMA training by the State Office of Planning and Sustainable Development and the Planning Department staff. And for the presentation, we have Deborah Mendez and Shishao Lee from the State Office of Planning and Sustainable Development joining us today from Oahu to provide training to the Commission on Coastal Zone Management Program and Special Management Area Permitting. So do they want to come up here to the table, please? Thank you for coming over and doing this training for us. And after they're finished, then the planner, Alex Roy, will provide a presentation on evaluating cumulative impacts in the SMA. Thank you for coming up to the table, and please take a seat and begin your presentation.
Hello, thank you. Okay. Sorry. Thank you for allowing us to give a presentation today. I'm Deborah Mendez with the Office of Planning Coastal Zone Management Program, and this. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, morning. Thank you.
Okay. Where's the mouse? Should be working. This is Windward. We can go through. So sorry, there's some technical difficulties here with the presentation. No.
Is it okay?
Yes, please.
Aloha, Commissioners. Deputy Director Darrow. The chair has asked for me to just give a little bit of brief background as to the reason why the review of SMA and understanding SMA, Special Management Area, is so important to the members of the Planning Commission. The authority under Chapter 205, HRS 205A, for approval and or denial of these SMA permits lies mainly with the planning commissions. The authority can be and has been given to the department by the commission for certain administrative actions. But a majority of the permits that come our way come before the planning commission because they require a special management area permit to be able to continue development. This is all spelled out. I'm sure that both Deborah and Shishao will explain in great detail as to the requirements and the law, the policies, objectives, and goals that are in the law that are to be followed by the planning commission as well as department making these determinations. So this area is an area along the coastline within the entire state. It's very specific and usually ranges in distance from, say, 300 feet to areas that can go as far in as a mile inland. And so development, if it falls in this area, may require a permit to come before the planning commissions. And that's why it's important to understand your role in this process, as well as understand what you're looking at, because it's very different from the role of approving or denying a change of zone or a use permit or a special permit. They have very specific and strict applications for those requirements that are to be followed by the commission as well as the department. I've sat under a number of trainings from Office of Planning, and it's very thorough and detailed. So this will really help us in moving forward and understanding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's very helpful. Let's see. So what I'd like to do though is to start kind of farther back. Oh, shoots. Which is it? Is that just? Am I not doing it correctly? Right, that is the first slide.
All right, Christian, you're gonna have to do the slides.
Yep. Okay. Oh, okay. No, sorry. Okay. So just as starting back all the way to 1960, the Coastal Zone Management Act was started out through a report from the Stratton Commission, and it began with the Stratton Commission expressing a concern to Congress that although the coastal zone, the coastal area is a backbone to the nation's economy, they are not managed properly. And so in 1972, the National CCMA, or National Coastal Zone Management Act, was passed by Congress. And this act was administered or is administered by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to provide for the management of the nation's coastal resources. So the goal is to protect, preserve, develop, and where possible, restore or enhance the resources of the nation's coastal zone. Let me see. And so let's see. And then later on, after 1972, when the CCMA was enacted, in 1973, the Hawaii's the Coastal Zone Act was enacted by Hawaii's legislation, Act 164. And then in 1975, there's the, as you see, the Environmental Shoreline Protection Act was enacted. And then in 77, after several years, the Hawaii CZM structure was developed and codified in Chapter 205A. Let me see. So this just shows, notating down that all 35 coastal and Great Lakes states and territories, with the exception of Alaska, participate in the National CZM program. So I'm just going to go through this first portion of the CZMA, not CZMA, the Coastal Zone Management Program. That is part one, the Coastal Zone Management Program, objectives and policies, federal consistency, the Marine and Coastal Zone Advocacy Council. And Chichao will be going through parts 2 and 3, the special management area and shoreline setbacks. So this Coastal Zone Management Program has two major components. One is regulatory with federal consistency, and as you've heard, the special management area permitting and shoreline setbacks. Then we also have another component, which is the program's initiatives. And if you're familiar with the Ocean Resources Management Plan, Coastal has its Coastal Non-Point Pollution Control Program and the Marine and Coastal Advocacy Council. So federal consistency federal consistency is a tool, or the tool that we're able to utilize based on the CZMA provides federal funds to the state, and also provides the opportunity to use this federal consistency review. Is allowing federal actions must be compliant with our enforceable policies. And so that's one of the benefits of the CZMA for us. Okay. So this is a little bit about the federal consistency. I'm sorry, the CZM program. We receive approximately $2.5 million in federal funds annually to support the CZM program, as well as to administer the county's estimate permitting. So with this 2.5 million, we provide approximately funds to support 4 to 6 positions in each neighbor island. Okay. So the objectives and policies of 205A, or the Coastal Zone Management Program, is identified in 205A, and it covers these variety of areas. And the coastal zone is identified as the entire state. It's not just the coastline area. So the entire state is the coastal zone that is identified for the program with. And so all the recreational resources, historic resources, all of these different objectives and policies are encompassed in the entire state that we, with their county and state laws, policies, and administration. Let's see. So the CZM program, like I said, the entire state, it's a network program. It's based on existing state and county agencies. So the counties play a crucial role in implementing the CZM program. So the spatial perspective diagram shown here illustrates that how under 205A, the CZM law, all states and counties are required to enforce objectives and policies that I mentioned earlier, those objectives and policies throughout the state. So the shoreline acts as a jurisdictional boundary sort of between the state and the counties for regulatory purposes. So on the ocean side of the shoreline, for example, DLNR OCCL manages the conservation district, and on the landward side of the shoreline, the counties are in charge of the county management of land use districts, especially in the urban areas. Okay. So I'm trying to, sorry. This matrix just sort of illustrates how Hawaii's regulatory authorities enforce the objectives and policies. So it's hard to see, but the matrix shows how the makeup of the state's statutes, rules, and ordinances, utilizing networks of statutes of those rules, ordinances to apply federal consistency, and they are enforceable policies which are approved by NOAA. So let's see. This illustration just shows the makeup of our Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, which management is a part of. So coastal zone management is on this side. The OPSD has 2 different divisions: land division with TOD, which is transient oriented development, and the planning division, which contains the Coastal Zone Management Program, environmental review, GIS, special plans, and sustainability. So that just shows you the makeup of our lead agency. The lead agency, OPSD, according to 205A, is required to do specific things, which is provide support and assistance for the administration of the CCM program, to review federal programs in the federal consistency review process, advocate for the compliance of 205A, and coordinate the implementation of the Ocean Resources Management Plan. Another entity or another initiative of the Coastal Zone Management Program is the maintenance of our public advocacy council, which is the Marine and Coastal Advocacy Council. For Hawaii Island, our representatives are Shimuro and the West Island, Sylvia Yanagi Sako. I'm sorry. And then, okay, sorry. And I'll turn it over to Shichao to go over more about the estimate permitting.
Morning, Commission
morning.
Chair and
Morning.
Commission members. Thank you for this opportunity to present our Hawaii CDM program SMA, commit system, and shoreline setbacks. So this diagram, I try to emphasize really important for us to understand the whole picture of our CDM program, including SMA and the shoreline setbacks. You see this, Deborah already mentioned, the shoreline looks like a jurisdiction divide between state and county. This from regulatory perspective, but in fact, county and state supposed to be working together for the shoreline protection, also including beach resources protection, including CDM program. The other line, the red line, you see this is the shoreline setback line, really important. They decide by county how far setback line from shoreline, that's decided by county. But 205A have the minimum requirement. We will discuss that in more detail in later slides. Then we also see the county jurisdiction mostly for SMA and shoreline setbacks is the inland of shoreline area. For planning commission, as Jeff there mentioned regarding your authority, is mostly the inland side from shoreline. And also CZM program is a statewide CZM area defined as whole state Hawaii, including the ocean side, because the reason the beginning 1977 Act 188 that time started CZM program, the SMA area defined as CZM area. So generally speaking, most people common sense, SMA is CZM, CZM is SMA. 1977, that time is right. But since 1989, the change in the CZM area is including whole statewide. SMA only a small portion. So the concept already changed. But most people still have some basic common sense, SMA, CZM, CZM, SMA. That's not right. That's not right now. We changed this kind of definition already. So
Shichao,
yes.
if I could,
Yes, please.
just before you move on this screen, this something that bring to everyone's attention. One thing that we've been coming across on this island, you'll notice the line just to the right of the red line, which is identified as the shoreline. And you'll see the line up above that identifies the county SMA going inland from that line. It does not extend outward or towards the ocean. What happens on our island that's unique is it won't be as defined as that picture where you see the water coming up to the land. Ours involves a number of unique geological features such as cliffs and eroding cliffs where the shoreline may be identified as what we call a top of poly, and it could be a little further inland with the cliff face going towards the ocean. Changes at the top of Polly, even though there's still land there. And sometimes we get caught up in these struggles with jurisdiction over this term of shoreline. And we have to request a certified shoreline survey be done to identify that line right there so we can separate between jurisdictions so that we don't overextend our authority, and same thing happens where the state doesn't extend their authority. I just thought I'd bring that to your attention because of that unique situation that happens on our island with cliffs. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. That's a good point. For Big Island, geological character different from other islands like Maui or Kauai or Oahu. That's why the shoreline definition defined by 1258. But administratively, for shoreline survey, certified shoreline, it depends on the border of DNR. They have an administrative law, chapter 13.5, define how to serve the shoreline, survey the shoreline. The reason for Hawaii County, Big Island, top of a cliff can be used as a shoreline potential, but it has to be certified, also get approved by border DNR, as Jeff mentioned, different from other islands because Hawaii definitely the cliff sometimes is treated as a shoreline. But generally speaking, certified shoreline only 12 months valid time. After 12 months be expired or have to apply for renewal from Board of DNR for shoreline. That's why what's the trigger for certified shoreline? That's the other kind of element. Why need a certified shoreline? As Jeff mentioned, because certified shoreline is the baseline for shoreline setback. How measure the area, setback area, that's depend on certified shoreline. So that's what we were talking about the part 3 of 1258. Thank you. So this is regarding SMA. You see the map illustrate what's the meaning of SMA area. You see SMA is a land extending the inland from shoreline. The mostly the related area subject to salinity or high tide influence. The reason SMA is not dependent on partial boundary. It's a kind of place-based original concept. So when 1977, June 8, by that time, the county authority decide SMA area boundary. So some parcel is inside SMA, but partially maybe outside SMA. That's why SMA area boundary not follow the parcel boundary. That's a really important concept. Parcel by parcel, sometimes property owner argue, say, why my parcel in SMA? Why my neighbor parcel not outside SMA? So this kind of concept that can be argued, but based on 1975 AG opinion regarding that time, how decide SMA boundary, the AG give opinion. That time minimum requirement is 100 yard away from shoreline, just Jeff mentioned 300 feet minimum requirement from shoreline for SMA. But of course, 1258 amendment, they changes this kind of minimum requirement. But SMA boundary for time being, mostly based on 1977 time from county authority decide SMA boundary. Yes.
So this intrusion that you're talking about, like incline pools, that type of thing, where the underwater or the underground portions of the alkaline pool would be considered part of the shoreline or the SMA?
There's
area?
potential because the SMA can be in land area, also water area. That's why when they talk about development concept is on land or in or underwater within SMA. So water body can be included as SMA also. As I point out, specifically for wetland, definitely important, like city, county, Honolulu, Oahu, they including some wetland within SMA also. I will talk about more detail regarding our county authority planning commission. What's the authority for SMA boundary amendment?
Thank you. We're going to save questions until the end of the presentation. Okay.
I like you guys
Thank
ask
you.
a question. Really,
Yeah.
question will be really
Okay.
good
And
for
this
us.
map we're looking at, this is
Yes.
Oahu.
Yes.
This is.
Oh, this is just a illustrate what the SMA looks like. We will talk more about SMA, the Act 176 at the time, 1975, how SMA started before CDM program.
Thank you.
So this is just give the whole picture of statewide, what the SMA area looks like. This map is really small scale, but you still can see how large for SMA area. You see the big island, Hawaii, really big SMA area. That's why your county authority much more heavy work to do compared to other small islands because big island is so big, right? That's why you have two planning commissions, Hilo side and Kona side. Since 2009, I think you have two planning commissions. So this just gives you the basic idea, SMA boundary. But we, based on the 1258 section 23, regarding SMA boundary amendment, anytime planning commission can initiate, ask director to get a SMA boundary amendment. Keep in mind for SMA extension, boundary extension, county authority can decide. For contraction, if we shrink the SMA area, must go to our office, OPSD, leading agency for review and approval. For extension, county authority planning commission can give the approval. Interesting part, City County Honolulu Council is a SMA authority, different from other three islands. This time because the county chart decide the planning commission only advice body. They have no authority for SMA and shoreline. They cannot change that. If they change it, they have to go to the county court charter to change the planning commission. So this is SMA area for whole statewide. Then we talk about the SMA permit. SMA permit is really interesting because Deborah already present 1973 have the act with, I think I don't remember the act number, but between 1973 and 1977, the act was 76, 1975, they have the SMA act come out. SMA title is called Environment Shoreline Protection Act. So that time you see SMA start from county and also before CDM program officially approved by state and also by Leeward. So this kind of things you can see SMA permit is so important for CDM program. That time the purpose try to temporarily interim control of development in the area along the shoreline. So that's a purpose for SMA permit. Since 1977, SMA permit become a permanent character of CDM program, not a temporary anymore. That's why right now, SMA is part 2 of 1258, so important. Also, people call SMA permit system is the home rule of county because SMA start from county before CDM program get approved. So I think that's why planning authority, planning commission, so important for SMA system for CDM program. So see the purpose is to try to control development along within area along the shoreline to avoid the permanent loss of the valuable coastal resources and including the beach access. So this is the basic purpose and also try to avoid the foreclosure of management because CDM, one of the objective, the public participation. That's why CDM rely on SMA permit, SMA major have the public hearing, for public participation. Also planning commission members from public. So that's important for this kind of objectives. So you see this picture, we will discuss more regarding along the shoreline, how the single family residency happen along the shoreline. So SMA permit, we have to understand SMA permit is the first permit for any development within SMA area. But SMA permit is not an land-use policy. That's why we keep in mind because of the SMA major require public hearing. Public sometimes the testimony they ask or no within SMA permit cannot that way because development decided by the policy. That's why it's made regulate the permissible land use. For Hawaii, they have 3 years of the land use policy with the State Land Use Commission. The second layer is the DNR, the Board of DNR for Conservation District. The third layer is City Council for subdivision zoning land use policy. So that's all land use policy. But SMA policy, when public asks to say, you shall stop this development within SMA permit cannot do that way because SMA permit is not land use policy. So this just remind SMA permit is a false permit. Then we talk about authority. The last slide with regarding planning commission is the SMA authority. This is just a first assessment development. We were talking regarding 1258 amendment. What's a list of exclusion list of the, that's all these under this kind of list were not as defined as development. That means it can be potentially exempt from SMA requirement. So that's an important concept also. Then after this kind of assessment, then we can decide. But I try to emphasize single family residency here before 2011, Act 53, since 1977 to 2011, more than 35 years, single family residency automatically exempt. No matter how large they are, where they're located is exempt, because 205A at that time started from 1977. Single family residency exempt from SMA permit. But Act 153, 2011, the amendment 205A asks size if floor area of single family residence more than 7,500 square feet area, that will trigger SMA permit. This picture I took from 2008 Maui HCPO conference. You see this building that time really close to shoreline is exempt from SMA permit. But right now, no way, because we will discuss Act 16, 2020, relocation. Shoreline parcel impacted by storm surge, waves, high tide, erosion, then even not shoreline parcel will trigger SMA permit requirement for single family residency. So Act 153, 2011 charge regarding size, then Act 16, 2020 regarding location for single family residency. So then we have the major and minor. This cost threshold also important for trigger. 2011 Act 153, they increased the cost threshold from $125,000 become $500,000 for trigger. This trigger, to be honest, numerical number, right? The public environment group really interested in this kind of trigger number because they can require for public hearing. But on the other side, negative impact potential people advocate play games. There may be $499,000. How we deal with that, right? So this kind of things can be positive, also can be negative. That's why our office originally asked to remove this kind of threshold. Don't use a number because SMA permit is a judgment determination assessment, right? Different from building permit, but environment groups, they still ask for trigger cost threshold. But anyway, the key difference between SMA major and minor permit requirement is the impact. If impact is significant, then will trigger SMA major, no matter cost threshold is more than $500,000 or not. In practical sense, sometimes people feel hard. How you do this kind of assessment? Because they ask for cumulative impact also for assessment. So for assessment purpose, impact is the key to decide major or minor. I know Jeff already, in practical sense, he knows when people play games 499, his mind already alerts. Don't put the number. We will ask you to do full assessment regarding potential impact. So sometimes people cut a piece, right? They become several pieces that become SMA minor only for 3 pieces, but all together, cumulatively, definitely will be SMA major, go to planning commission for public hearing. So cumulative impact, I think Alex will discuss more details. That's also really important because based on 312 evaluation from NOAA for our CZM program last time from 2008 to 2018, they asked OPSD as a leading agency to provide guidance for county planning department how to assess cumulative impact. As a definition of cumulative impact, they include past, present, and future action within the area. That's why we know, based on the guidance, know the spatial area and the time frame really important to decide or assess cumulative impact. So based on this kind of criteria, we ask a minimum 5 years in the past and 5 years minimum requirement in the future. All these 3 time period action for cumulative impact. But we are different from EAIS for SMA permit. That's why we have to back to the CZM objectives and policies and the guidelines, section 125826, regarding criteria for SMA permit cumulative impact. So you see this 10 criteria, first 8 is based on CZM objectives. Then last 2 based on review SMA guidelines for criteria for assessment cumulative impact. This is just based on framework for cumulative impact. I think I have to more details. So again, I have to emphasize CZM provision for 5A very important for SMA permit condition and the assessment. We cannot add other kind of conditions beyond the CZM provision. Otherwise, we can be challenging. We cannot defend ourselves based on 1258 provision, right? So you see, I emphasize because Deborah already mentioned CZM 10 objectives and policies. That's really important for SMA permit conditions and terms. So keep this in mind. It will be really helpful because based on our review from different countries, we see some SMA permit conditions is beyond the CZM provisions. We will give some slides to give some examples. So this is the 3 examples regarding SMA permit condition based on the SMA permit. So first example, I don't want too much emphasize when they give the condition regarding criminal provision. Yes, public safety for SMA is not a criminal, social criminal, it's a cause hazard, this kind of for hazard purpose. But some country use a social criminal as a SMA permit condition. There's no foundation from 1258, I would say. If people are challenging, then we have to defend where is the provision from 1258. The other ones, the third example regarding traffic. Traffic are always important based on SMA assessment and also public hearing. But if traffic only just for traffic, like a signal or intersection traffic based on transportation assessment, that's not without the context CZM, then will also be problem. We have to emphasize we always have contact the test to regression area beach shown. That's the context of SMA condition. Transportation traffic itself, there's no context or CZM 1258 provision at all. So I try to emphasize permitted condition must be based on the CZM provision. Thank you, AG. Last time to end these slides from after Water Planning Commission, yeah. So then we permit condition, you see this condition mostly based on CZM provision, also guideline regarding the beach access, regarding also view, open space view, coastal view, and also the sanitation, right? The regarding state water potential impact for building height, and that's really important. One example can be happen when you building permit or court, no numerical number for height, really dangerous. If only use a number, say 2 stories, 3 stories for building height, people sometimes play games. They can be more than 45 feet. They only say 2 stories. You can imagine what's the meaning of the height. So that's why numerical number from building code regarding height really important. Restrict the height for protect the open view and the coastal view along the shoreline. I know some example happen in other islands already. So hopefully Hawaii doesn't have this kind of issue. That's why I say building code with numerical number really important. Don't rely on 2 stories, 3 stories. Hawaii 2 stories. So that's an example for public open space. Then we have enforcement for SBs and setbacks. That's why I emphasize permit condition really important, because when you put a condition, you have to enforce the condition, right? If no context of 1258, how use CZM law to enforce the permit condition. We have to keep this in mind. Of course, we have a penalty for violation. We have status reports for the project. They have to provide a report, also complain. They also get enforcement and move on. So all this kind of mechanism for enforcement of SMA permit shoreline setbacks. Then we talk about shoreline setbacks right now. Shoreline setback is really important, but different from SMA. You see, shoreline setback effects from 205A, that's land use commission law. That means shoreline setback is land use policy. At the beginning, I said part 2 SMA is not land use policy, but the shoreline setback is land use policy. You see, 1977, they started from 205. Then 1986, they moved to 205A for shoreline setbacks, become part 3 of 205A. So shoreline setbacks is a land use policy. This purpose is prohibition of any structure and activities within shoreline setback area. This means they didn't say development. I emphasize again, development concept only part 2 for SMA purpose. For setback, we use term structure and activities. We don't use term development. That's different from part 2. Setback is prohibition. Any structure and development activity with setback should keep it as open for beach protection, for shoreline protection, for all these kind of purpose. Then you use the number. This is the shoreline here. Then where is the shoreline setback? Because from 1970, 70 feet minimum requirement. Then for 5A, 2020, then increase the requirement the shoreline setback from 20 feet to 40 feet. I know before the time, they give the exemption of 20 feet as minimum requirement. Since Act 16, 2020, no, must be minimum requirement is 40 feet. So that's a key concept. Then shoreline setback is easy for new structure, but for existing structure, really challenging because already conforming, right? So how to do that part? That's challenging for our CZM program. Not only for Hawaii, but for United States. All these kind of situations happen because non-conforming structure before CZM program start, they're already there. We have now we have managed retreat, move away from the shoreline area, try to get the open space come out, but really challenging. For instruction, just start from setback minimum requirement. So this is I just briefly introduced the Act 13. There are 4 major amendments, and I already present. One major amendment for single location, right? If shoreline parcel or parcel impact by storm surge, erosion, high tide, they will trigger SMA requirement before requirement, but right now must be trigger SMA permit requirement for single families. And increase the number from 20 to 50. That's also really important. Most county right now use 60 feet. I know County Hawaii different because Jeff already mentioned it's not a erosion issue, but the setback minimum requirement still 40 feet can be more than that. County has to increase the minimum requirement. Then also the other definition for cost hazard and 405A, really important definition of beach. Before Act 16, 2020, no definition from status law regarding what's a beach. We don't have that, but Act 16 first time and the definition of beach to status law to CZM program. The beach, not only dry beach area, they include sand dune, also near shore submerging area, not only just as public concept perception
only dry beach area, more than that. So the beach definition clearly defined in 1258. Then we also implement prohibit private shoreline hardening structure in front of beach area. This means no more responsibility in front of the area, making Hawaii country bigger. From the beach area, but the public sector is restrict, minimize. That's the key amendment from 258. But this is from also hardly already happened there before 16. But some area can be granted variance, setback variance for shoreline hardening. If they clearly interest in interest of public, like a public safety or public interest, they can be granted a variance for shoreline hardening for private sector. But most cases, I don't think they have this kind of let's give this store still of their own for variance for private sector hardening. Then I just tried to discuss regarding Act 2029 last year, 2023, gives the list of non-development. They give public facility, fencing, so this be them from SBA permit. 那个2多法 to fancy in conservation land before they always get a SBA requirement. Right now, they can be exempt from SBA permit, give much more benefit for public interest. So this is just an example for them. Okay, SBA permit.
Please let us talk a little bit and ask some questions, okay? Thank you. Commissioner Noborikawa.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. So you talked about where there was the change between the 20-foot setback and then I forget what year became a 40-foot setback. So if you have a case where you have, 3 side-by-side properties, the 2 on either side are 20-foot, the person comes, he would have 40-foot setback. And if he can't build within with that setback, the side of the lot, can he apply for a variance between others?
I think the affects the minimum requirement must be 40 feet. No exemption. It must be 40 feet minimum requirement. If you say 20 feet, non-conforming legally, that's fine. But for new activity, must be 40 feet minimum requirement from shoreline.
Okay, so there's variance if they can't build within that.
They
Even though their
can,
neighbors have
if
20.
within 40 feet, they can apply for variance. Keep in mind, setback variance is not a permit, is exemption to prohibition. This means variance can be denied.
Right.
Because variance, only variance. The term variance means hardship or some other concept. Doesn't mean will be approved, different from permit.
Thank you.
Just the
The 2020 changes on the September 15th, 2020. So the ones that you mentioned, some about grandfather. Okay, so if a person or if a structure needs to be renovated, does he needs or that person needs to I guess follow the new ordinance in regards to the new changes to the 40-foot setback after if he wants to, a person needs to go renovate and he wants to do a renovation, that person needs to comply with the new setback?
No, if non-conforming before September 15, 2020 already there, that's non-conforming. That means the there's legally out there. No changes for repairs can be no variance requirement.
But if for reconstructing more than 50% of structure, they will need a variance requirement. Whether or not variance will be granted, that's a problem. That doesn't mean guarantee you apply for variance will be granted. So if within 4 feet, that's fine. No any further requirement. But if we want to reconstruct or repairs more than 50% of structure itself, then you go to the county authority for the variance requirement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, Deputy Director.
Thank you. Just real quick. So, as Shi Chao mentioned, you can repair, maintain, take care of everything. The main thing we're looking at when those plans come in is, are they expanding, right? So if there's any expansion, that causes problems, right? Because you're expanding that non-conforming use that was permitted prior to the change in the law. And then again, as Shi Chao said, even if you're not expanding, but your renovation is to the point that you're going on beyond 50% of that value, which is usually determined by Public Works, then it triggers a whole bunch of new issues, including that is no longer a non-conforming structure. You're almost creating a new structure.
Commissioner Au.
Thank you for coming for the presentation. Very interesting. And through your presentation, what came to my attention are funds and monies. So I have two questions. The first question I have is you said that there's 4 to 6 positions that's funded to each county. And what are the roles of these individuals? Do they answer to the state? And I know Alex is it, but do they answer or do they fall under the jurisdiction of our director?
Thank you. I can answer that. They are contracted. We have a contract with the county planning department. And so that contract pays for the staff that would answer to the planning department director. So.
Okay, so we have one with Alex, or do we have others? I'm just curious.
We have others.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get too much into it, and we're not here to micromanage. But the second question I have is violations, and who gets the money and who. I understand there's county and state jurisdictions with DLNR in the county. Maybe if you can just kind of elaborate on the violations and who gets those funds, county or state. So that's an interesting question, but always interesting because violation of civil fines, where the money go, right?
Yeah.
They can set up some county like Maui said, beach protection funding. Mostly, I would say go to general fund for the civil fines. If civil fines get pay the civil fine, they go to general fund. But I would say if specifically used for shoreline or CZM program will be really good instead of generally go to general fund for civil fines. Yeah. But the jurisdiction between DNR and the county, sometimes they happen violation, not only just one type of violation, it can be multiple violations based on state law or administrative laws ordinance. That's why state can issue violation also. County also can. Just like a North Shore or Oahu example, not only a violation for state DNR violation, but also city county, they also have the violation for these kind of civil fines. Okay, and yeah, I do understand when there's SMA educated people in each county, then that's where the decisions can be made and discussions can be during that time. And I know every situation is case by case, right? So thank you very much.
Yes, Commissioner Rodriguez.
Yes, I have a question about public access, to the beach. I understand that, the public has to have access to the beach, they can't be blocked off. Is that correct?
Your question regarding public access to beach?
No, my question is, if I'm gonna develop something, I can't, I have to have can block off the public from having access to the beach. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's for beach access, have two types of beach access. One is the vertical, the other is horizontal, right? For vertical access, normally they go to easement issue because if a private road, the easement issue. But not only rely on 1258, CDM as made for public access. County chapter state law 46 also subdivision asks for public access also. But for horizontal access along the shoreline, that each county have the requirement regarding along the shoreline, like 6 feet wide for horizontal access for public. But definitely 1258, when talk about the public access, they're including two type of access, vertical and horizontal. I know in Oahu, several years ago, always is hard for vertical access because when the new owner coming, they put a gate, stop public access vertically to the shoreline or ocean recreation area. But on the other side, property owner have the right because if public visiting this kind of area, even midnight, they feel unsafe. That's why they put a gate. So these kind of things are really debatable. When one side is the property right, the other side is requirement for public access. But for horizontal along the shoreline, they always be protected by 1258. Also, normally follow the state area, the jurisdiction. Yes.
Yes, Deputy Director.
So one of the main objectives and policies of the CZM program is public access, recreational, providing more opportunities for recreational resources, including public access. And as Shichao mentioned, if there is no activity as far as a permit for an SMA permit for a particular property, and somebody buys the property and fences it and blocks public access, there's not much we can do about it because there isn't anything that has set up a Malcolm Mackay access at that time. There's lateral access that's allowed by state law. I believe it's chapter 115. Yeah.
Yes. 115.
115, right?
Yes.
But what happens is when an application comes into the Planning Commission and it is an area that we look at that could provide opportunities for public access, that's where we try to incorporate conditions for the Planning Commission and to consider to allow further public access. Sometimes we meet with agreements from the landowners, they're like amenable to those conditions. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they'll try to fight back with that. But again, if they need an SMA permit, that is one of the objectives and policies we are clearly looking at for approval of that particular permit, especially when it comes to like larger developments like resort areas and hotels and things. We want to make sure we preserve that public access for those areas. But it also comes down to even areas where someone's building a house and there has historically been access in these areas, but they've been blocked off. And this is an opportunity where we can provide other opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner De La Cruz.
Sorry, I think
Oh,
Jeff,
excuse me.
really good point. You mentioned if already there, nobody can do anything. But the trigger, when they apply for SMA permit, that's good time to make the public access come out. If they don't have the trigger, then you cannot force that part, that area, waiting for the trigger come out. Subdivision or SMA or some project happen, then county definitely have a chance. Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner De La Cruz.
Okay, so I don't know if this is the right body to ask this question. Looking at the 97,000 acres that we have that managed by SMA, who public access. you know, the shoreline, who monitors and who, I guess, I mean, of course, with every change is happening each time, who monitors and, you know, from wildlife, uh, you know, shoreline, who monitors that? Is that something that the county or, and then how often is that being monitored and, you know,
That's when the monitor or enforcement are always challenging. I know the resource limit, but public complaint, that's the key element for monitor to be started. If general monitor may be really challenging, but from time to time, depending on the permit condition, right? They have to provide the status report. But if general speaking, the monitor really difficult, but if a public complaint, then becomes a hotspots issue, then will be attention from a county if it were under the county jurisdiction, but some area can be under DNR jurisdiction also, then state and county have to cooperate, coordinate each other, make the case be resolved. So anyway, that's, I know you have a good point for monitor, even for enforcement, mostly rely on complaints. You probably say, oh, why this get blocked, or why something happen? Then issue come out, then get attention from state and from county.
Maybe I can chime in again. So this has been a real difficult area for planning. We established these public accesses around the island. Some of them have been there for decades. And we will get calls that they're being blocked or they're being overgrown. And who is responsible for maintaining this? Ultimately, if there is a public access easement that's been granted, the easement document will identify who is responsible for maintenance of that. There are times that it is the landowner or the private owner, or it could be times where the county is actually identified as the one to maintain. Unfortunately, we, you know, it's not as if the planning department has a division that goes out with weed whackers and mowers and maintains public access. Although we're working on it, Alex has said he has I'm just kidding, but so it is an area that we are working on currently to see options, you know, like maybe possibly public-private partnerships where groups in areas that are really passionate about these accesses will participate in their group maintaining. Sometimes it's the homeowners associations that may be in that area will participate, or the landowner themselves. But this is always an issue. We're constantly getting calls or complaints about access and, you know, maintenance and blockage and things like that. So it's always happening. We just keep on working on it, and hopefully we'll get to a place. We actually have a position in our department that is assigned for public access. And with that position, we're hoping to expand the program where we can identify these accesses clearly on our geographical information system map, which is our GIS, where people can, you know, go look and find out where these accesses are, identify new areas that we want to keep aware of if they happen to come in, that we want to preserve those opportunities, and also making sure that maintenance is being conducted, and if there's blockage or if there's movement of these accesses, like eroding cliffs where the access has to move in, that's maintained. But thank you.
Yes, sorry, I think public access, when we 12.5A emphasize objective of public access, sometimes public treat it as free, right? Like public parking, they treat it as free. But 12.5A never say public parking for public access is free. That's debatable, but there's also potential get funding for maintenance. For private sector easement, they maybe give agreement they maintain, but sometimes private sector also feel the burden for maintain this kind of access, even their road. So this kind of things, how to deal with that is really challenging, not only for Hawaii, for California, for other states, same issue. Even when Supreme Court have case law regarding public access, because the public access, the private road to the ocean, the new owner coming, they put a gate, ask $10 each time to get into theirs. That's why I get the Supreme Court. But that's the situation happen in other states also.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners? Great. We really thank you for this presentation. It's important to us to understand, and you know, that you pointed out that this is the first step that they have to come in for an SMA when they want to do construction. And that's very important for us to look at all of these issues. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Mr. Alex Roy now is going to speak from the county.
Okay. I know you guys have gotten a lot of information this morning, a lot of technical stuff. So there's two documents that I gave to you. One is the cumulative impacts in the special management area, County of Hawaii Planning Department. So this is notes. A couple of years ago, this body asked us to take a look at and explain and provide information on cumulative impacts and what that means for the Planning Commission. The discussion started with development at Puako, and one of the commissioners who's no longer here felt that the community character was changing in Puako with the loss of the small beach homes and the construction of larger homes. And could that community character, the change in that character, be considered a cumulative impact? So as Xi Chao kind of spoke to, and maybe as you read, it's difficult to nail down a very strict metric on what is a cumulative impact and what is not. The most simplest explanation or definition of a cumulative impact that I've provided, and I provided to the other commission, was a parking spot. A car pulls in, a drop of oil hits that parking spot, and they pull out. One car, not a big deal, but 1,000 cars, 10,000 cars, and now you've got a huge depression, you've got impact, you've got, you know, staining, you've got potential chemicals, you know, becoming a source. So, you know, one car alone, not a big deal, but 1,000 cars in that same spot have cumulatively over time. And that's what he talked about, a spatial and temporal kind of idea behind understanding what cumulative impacts. And so my parking space, you've got that spatial, very tight spatial area, but a very long time frame. So that those are things that you guys have to think about. So in this document, the cumulative impacts and special management area document, I outlined in each of the rules that you guys, you know, read and relate to all the instances where cumulative impacts and adverse kind of require the Planning Commission to take a look at this. And so it becomes important to understand what they are, and each of you kind of have to decide on how you feel and how you would measure cumulative impacts. Because as he had said, you know, one of the key factors in SMA is this adverse impact. And one of those adverse impacts is a cumulative impact over time. So does the project that you guys are reviewing over time going to be an impact because of it's something ongoing, things like that. And Xi Chao touched on the, you know, the idea of the single family residence, that for many, many years, single family residence was looked at as really a simple exempt action. But as we've learned over time, and personally, I feel single family residence is a cumulative impact because it's constantly being, you know, for the next 75 years, activity will be going on in that location. So once you permit a home, that's it. You know, there's going to be stuff going on at all times and for, you know, for a long time in that location. A couple things that I wanted to touch on now. if you know or not, I have been doing coastal zone management, shoreline planning in Hawaii for 13 years. So I have a lot of experience, and I kind of wanted to share just a couple things that I heard, questions that commissioners had brought up, and to clarify, to make it a little easier for you guys to understand. The first is you'll see on that the notes document, PC Rule 8, one of the first things is the definition of the shoreline. So we saw that form in that line that said shoreline, and that's an important word because you have shoreline and that actually means something jurisdictionally. But I want you to know the shoreline means the upper reaches of the wash of the waves. Other than storm or seismic, at a high tide, it's pretty much the highest tide of the year. And this is one reason why a shoreline certification is only good for 12 months. So when an applicant or landowner gets a shoreline certification, they have 12 months really to apply that certification to an application. Because the shoreline is such a dynamic ecosystem, and because of the way that we measure where the actual shoreline is, it's constantly changing. So I kind of just wanted to bring that up to you, that a shoreline is changing and it's only good for 1 year, and so a certification is really only good for 1 year. And so what we at the planning department, if an applicant gets the certified shoreline, we accept that in the application, even if the project's going to extend beyond that, as long as it's within the time frame of that when they applied, you know, because we understand things take a while. But again, it's an indicator of how dynamic the shoreline is, that a certification will only last for 12 months, and then you have to do it over again because we know things change. So going back to cumulative impacts, you know, we've talked about you know, how counties play a really crucial role in protecting and preserving the CZM, and cumulative impacts are a key factor in how you make that determination. And so I kind of outlined all these different, and you can kind of peruse it. It's kind of a cheat sheet for you, for the Planning Commission, to kind of see that in each of these different sections, the cumulative impacts for both Rule 9 and Rule 8, and then of course the Rule 11, there's talk of this cumulative impacts. And so when you're reviewing projects, you know, there's an idea of that. And as it was mentioned, that, you know, you kind of, you know, you're essentially not saying no to the SMA, but you have to make sure that every impact is mitigated or eliminated because of conditions that you place on that. So when someone comes in for development and we've determined that they need an SMA permit, it's kind of your job now to determine, have they mitigated all the impacts or eliminated all the potential impacts now and into the future? So it's a challenge. You guys have a huge kind of challenge to understand. But then it's my job to make sure I provide you all the information on potential impacts. But then you guys have to kind of carry that into the future and decide, well, okay, this is going to be something, you know, down the line, or no, they've done a good job of mitigating potential impacts, or the impacts are short-term. Something that'll just be, say, construction impacts, which we all know that, you know, dust and noise and things, well, eventually those go away. So those aren't really long-term. So it's that spatial and temporal kind of, so always be thinking about that when you're talking about or thinking about cumulative impacts. I know we talked about shoreline setback variances, and Jeff kind of touched on that. And we have done, this body actually approved one for parks. They had no other choice. So we adhere to the 40-foot setback since 2020 as a requirement. But in this instance, parks had very limited space. And so there is a hardship component. If an applicant can come in and provide some indication that there's a severe hardship, they have no other choice. A shoreline setback variance can be applied for, and this body, of course, would review that and approve that. But there is a provision that allows for people to get a variance, but they are extremely rare. I think we've done maybe 5 in the past 10 or 15 years. And the last one approved, again, was for county parks. They had a pavilion. There was no other choice, so they had to be within the setback area. They tried to move it as far back, no other choice, so that hardship allowed them to. But they still, even a government entity, still had to come in and get that shoreline setback variance. Public access, there are many challenges. Jeff kind of touched on that. One thing I did want to bring up is when a new subdivision comes in, or a development for a single family residence, we really push for that. I had a recent project, unfortunately Windward didn't pass it, but it's moving through still, not lost. But there was no access in this area. So they came in with a 5-lot subdivision. So I pressed for a pedestrian access from the road all the way down to the shoreline. And a lot of times we can do that. It's a give and take. You know, you're getting your subdivision, but we really need to see some kind of public access in perpetuity as part of the deed, separate from the subdivided lots, things like that, so that people, you know, and that is one of the things that I try to do and our office tries to do, is to create new access, public Malka to Mackay access, when it's not there, because I feel it's important, and we've lost a lot of that. And then Jeff touched on other areas where it may have been kind of known, or, you know, people have used it. Well, then we really, again, will push for that and get it deeded. So it is a big part of what we try to do at the SMA, especially when we get development near the shoreline and there's opportunity for that Malka to Mackay access. And the loss of access, you know, over time with all the coastal development could be something that you could look at as a cumulative impact. More and more development leads to less and less access. So pushing for access, I think, is a mitigating, you know, potentially, you know, from the Planning Commission. But some of the challenges, you know, management to me is the key to establishing and keeping public access. We've created a lot of public access points, but a lot of times they get overgrown, they get lost, they get not used, or homeowners will kind of push their vegetation or fencing or things like that. I just went out, you know, we got a call, someone placed a half of a fence. It's a 10-foot wide pedestrian public access easement. The fence went in there. Okay, we got a call, a complaint, we went out there. Pedestrian access was still open, and what we had found out was that people were driving down that access, which we definitely do not want. So the people who were maintaining it, the landowner, put up a half a fence to stop from vehicles, but not stop people. And so we had to tell the complainant, like, look, it's still fulfilling its destiny as a public pedestrian access, but restricting vehicles, which to us is a cumulative impact over time. The more and more vehicles that drive down to the shoreline, we want to restrict that. So, you know, so it's a challenge dealing with public access from, you know, who manages it is a big thing. And Jeff and I are working on one right now that's involving county council, Fishermen's Association, Homeowners Association, the planning department, all to come up with a management framework for about 6 or 7 public shoreline accesses over, you know, a couple of miles of shoreline. So it's a big challenge, but it is something that I want the commissioners to really, you know, to think about. And when we're putting that, who is the manager? Who's going to manage it? Who's going to cut that? You know, I'll gladly go out there, you know, with my weed whacker. But, you know, can the homeowner do it? Doesn't have the provisions to do that a lot of times. So it becomes, management becomes, to me, one of the biggest challenges to establishing shoreline access. A lot of times it's easy to get the access, but who maintains it? You know, who keeps it up and makes sure it's relatively safe, you know. Access points don't have to be ADA, but they should be relatively safe. Touching more on cumulative impacts. So in this document, there's a couple of diagrams that would give you guys just a brief framework on, you know, is it a direct effect, is it an indirect effect, or is it a cumulative effect? And this is, you know, again, because there's no strict metrics. And Xichao and OPSD provided this fantastic document, and you guys also have a copy of that, Cumulative Effects, Impacts, Assessment Guidance in the SMA. So OPSD went through, referenced a number of other states, and tried to provide, and then they put that, Xichao showed that diagram, the CZM criteria, which talks about the spatial scope, the temporal scope. So you guys saw that diagram up on the presentation. So you now have a copy of that.
And it's in this.
Yeah. No, it'll be in the, you should have gotten a copy of the, it's got a little picture of the Hawaii on the front.
Yeah.
The state, yeah. So this is a great document put forth by OP and provides some of what he talked about today.
Right.
You know, and the idea is that you guys reference these. So when we get a project, you know, and you know, there's concerns about potential cumulative impacts. There's concerns about long-term effects. There's a big spatial or there's a big temporal component. Reference that, you know, keep this as a reference in your book, you know, or you can always call me and we can go through it. You know, and I said this to Windward, you know, please utilize me. I'm staff for you guys, you know, as the CZM SMA planner and the senior one on this island. It's my job to make sure you guys get everything that you need. So, you know, always reach out to me for information. And if you have specific questions about how to interpret maybe something in these documents, I'm always available. But so, you know, so I don't want to spend a lot of time because I know you've gotten hammered with a lot of information today. But some of the key takeaways, I think, is that, you know, the adverse impacts of a project is the focus of the SMA. One of those adverse impacts could be cumulative impacts. And so you have to take that into account. And how do you do that? Well, you look at the spatial and temporal components of that project and kind of in your own mind and based on what you know and believe and what you know of your areas, kind of decide, okay, have they mitigated those impacts? And are they real? Are they long-term? Or is the community just feel like they're long-term? You know, so you have to kind of weigh and balance, and it can be a challenge. And that's why I say I'm always here, but I want you to reference these. And I made this nice note sheet for you, kind of a cheat sheet. It outlines every instance where PC kind of, it has the authority, and that's it, the authority to really push and say, oh, wait a second, you know, this could be a cumulative impact that we need to mitigate or we need to take into consideration. How do we do that? What condition can we put on there for long term? You know, what kind of, because you guys can have conditions all day long. And so listening to these projects get described, well, okay, I'd like a condition based on, and she outlined fantastic ones for you guys. He tuned what he learned from Windward to Leeward and provided a little more county specific information. And so he gave you some great examples of that. And I know there may be some mistake of, but I will get you a copy of that, that PowerPoint, that PDF. But that was a great, you know, a slide to show some examples of conditions, you know, and you guys have that authority to kind of really dig in and say, okay, whoa. Let's have a condition where, you know, we want long-term monitoring. You brought up Ankling Ponds. There's the jurisdiction and the regulatory framework around Ankling Ponds is haphazard. I'm actually part of a WHOI now that's trying to come up with a more streamlined framework to protect and preserve Ankling Ponds. Because you have a lot of different jurisdictions. Actually, Ankling Ponds fall under DOH as far as water quality, which is a little strange, you know. Then if they have animals, DLNR would get involved. But it's not a shoreline unless the water, of course, you know, but there is an interaction. So you could have Army Corps of Engineers. So there's a lot going on. And so this WHOI's come together over the past year or so to try to come up with something more streamlined and that provides a very clear framework. But right now we don't. So to me, that's one of the things that falls to PC. If there's Ankling Ponds, you guys have to kind of take a look and say, okay, whoa, we're developing that. You know, is there a buffer that we can in place? You know, and that's something you guys could do. We want to make sure that there's a clear buffer around that pond for the development that's being proposed. Because there's no set buffer like a shoreline setback for Ankling Ponds.
I can remember when I first came on the commission and it came before us about someone putting a rock wall up and it, you know, it was the shoreline hardening. And I didn't really know too much about that because all the neighbors seem to have these things. And here is someone now asking for it. Can you talk a little bit to that? Because that could come before the commission.
Yeah, for sure. There's two aspects to shoreline hardening. One, we know now that hardened structures actually are very detrimental to beach formation. Real quickly, you can think of, you have a hard you know, face of your seawall, a wave comes in and reflects back out. The second wave comes in and starts to interact with that wave. And so what you get is a sloshing motion where nothing can ever deposit. And so you lose the beaches. And that's Oahu in a nutshell. We've seen beaches just disappear, and that's across the state. Now we're lucky here on Big Island because we have fewer sandy beaches, and a lot of our beaches are cobble or stone or cliff, but we still have sandy beaches. And so it's something to take into consideration that hardening can affect sandy beaches. But it also is, it can also restrict access and, can be detrimental to that lateral along shore access. It becomes a visual impact to me, in my opinion, when you have a very rocky shore and you have all these big, huge walls. They could become a hazard as they fail over time because nothing lasts forever. Concrete's heavily impacted by seawater, so of course they deteriorate, and we're starting to see that. We're starting to see seawalls that were built 50s and 60s and 70s starting to deteriorate and fail, and they're coming in for repairs. And we're having to deal with that, and it's a challenge between the state because of that jurisdictional line. The seawall, the face, the Mackay face of the seawall is the shoreline. So everything Malka of that face is county, everything Mackay of that face is the state. So imagine trying to come in and repair that wall. It becomes very tricky, and we've run into some issues already. Kona Balikai here on the side is looking to repair that. We gave them a permit because they said that they could do it from all Malka, but it come to find out they could not. And we found out that they had heavy machinery, and now we're into an enforcement action because they just couldn't get it together. So it's a challenge. And seawalls, to me, are a short-term solution. The state is working through something called a managed retreat. And if you've heard that term, it kind of may seem a little bit cryptic, but what it means is essentially we're managing how do we retreat from this rising sea level that we all know is coming. We were lucky to get the extended setback, but 40 feet in some areas is still not enough. What we found on our side, on the Hamakua side, you have these high cliffs. You can have episodic failures of 30 feet in one day, and then nothing for 100 years. So it's, so it becomes a very, challenging when you put hardened structures that we see all along Ali'i Drive. You have to kind of decide, if they're allowed they're not allowed to build up or raise these. So eventually these seawalls are going to get topped. And what we're seeing is more and more people illegally buffing up the top of the seawall, or making it a little bit wider, or, making it a little bit higher. And it's just not, as Jeff said, you can't expand in the shoreline setback area because this is not the intent of that. So, seawalls, while not a big thing for us on sandy beaches, it is to me something that is an existing development problem where we have a lot of old seawalls all along Ali'i Drive. We all know that. That need to be dealt with. And how do we deal with that? As they begin to fail, as they begin to get overtopped by waves, people are going to freak out and say, well, I need to protect my property. So there's going to be in the future, we've been kicking the can down the road for a while, but you guys are going to end up it's going to fall to your laps to decide, on how best to manage that, with some guidance from the state, of course. So hopefully that kind of answered your question. Sorry. I could talk a lot about this, so I'm trying to not just blather on.
Commissioner Al, did you want?
Thank you, Alex, for your passion. I think you're the right person for the job. Thank you very much. You made a comment about your oil example. I thought that was a great example. Can you share with us the most recent SMA minor permit? Because we don't see the minors, right? So, I understand, I was reading through the determination for the minors, and, it emphasizes under $500,000. I don't know anything that's built under $500,000 on the shoreline, and the cumulative impact and, all the rules. But can you just give an example? Because we never see it.
First, remember, is the development or not development? So when something is considered development, then we would, typically look towards valuation sometimes. A perfect permit, which we do a fair amount of, are clearing permits. Clearing of land, just clearing of land. I want to go ahead, clear, maybe install some fence. Okay, and I've seen a number of those. That is development. It's not an exempt action. If you had a home and you wanted to do some clearing, that could be related use and may be considered exempt. But when you have nothing there and you just want to go in and clear and build some fence, that's actually considered development. So then we look at, and then the valuation of that, typically for clearing, I just paid $8,000 at my property to have about a couple acres cleared. So it typically doesn't go too high. And so that's a perfect example. We do a lot of those clearing minors where it's development, but it's not major development such that it elevates to an SMA use permit. But you're right. If you're going to build a home and it's on the shoreline parcel, you're never going to get it below 500 grand. We're not really seeing those. When the home is not on the shoreline, as Xichao mentioned, valuation actually doesn't matter. We did an SMA assessment for a hotel renovation in Kona. It was about $17 or $18 million worth of renovations, but it was a non-shoreline parcel, related use. So of course, all the actions were exempt. Valuation really only plays a part when it's a shoreline parcel. Now, if that home that's not a shoreline parcel is larger than, say, 7,500 square feet, then it becomes, then you require that SMA major. But the common SMA minor, for me, the ones that I've done, and the last three, I think, have been for just simple clearing. It's development, but not major development.
Okay, just one last question. This is just a specific question, and this is just for my knowing and for the commission too. Like, let's say there's a piece of land, a landowner wants to get a grubbing permit, and it's lava rock, and they have to bring in a D9 to clear 3/4 of an acre. Would that require, would that be a minor or a major?
That would fall under the shoreline parcel. One, we'd restrict them from the setback area. They can't have any heavy machinery in the shoreline setback area. So if they want to clear that, from the setback area out, that would require a minor because there's no established use on the property. If they're just coming in with a large excavator, yeah, they're gonna have to do that. And a lot of times too, I will run, when there's heavy ground disturbance, I actually run the project through SHPD to ensure that SHPD does a review. And if they require something, if someone's gonna go dig in the ground, well, somebody other than me should be looking at the archaeology and historical potential impacts of that. So, we will sometimes, now SHPD has a map and we review sites based on that, but a lot of times we will try to put it to them just to take a review because it's ground disturbance. But yeah, that would require a minor. And unless they were doing something else as part of larger development, the minor would be sufficient.
So if I could chime in on that, that last part was important because staff will, if they come in and they're going to be clearing 3/4 of an acre, normally it's associated with something else, either a dwelling or development of some sort. So we really want to try to dig deeper to find out what is the end goal here. We won't just, if they just submit an assessment saying, oh, we just want to bring in a D9 and clear 3/4 of an acre, we're not going to say, oh yeah, no problem, give them a minor. We're going to ask them, wait a minute, we need more information here. So we do take that very seriously, especially along the shoreline, because that automatically triggers some sort of permit when it's development. Thank you.
Yeah, and anything with the ground impacts for us and for me, along the shoreline is I want to make sure BMPs are in place. I want to make sure that they have, because under an acre, you don't need a building permit. So the review falls to us to deal with that. So I take that very seriously.
Thank you. Commissioner Nobuhara.
Thanks, Chair DeFranco. Thank you, Mr. Roy, for your presentation. I have two questions. The first one is on Rule 9-4Q on the SMA minor permits. So it says, that a minor permit is when you have a project which is not in excess of 500,000 and which has no cumulative impact or substantial adverse environmental or ecological effect. What if there is a cumulative impact or a substantial adverse ecological effect, even if it's under 500,000, does that push it over into needing a use permit?
The director has that authority to determine that, hey, actually, yeah, I don't care how low value this has got a potential adverse impact or potential cumulative impact, and therefore we want to put it to PC as an SMA major permit. That's the director's authority. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so my second question has to do with the substantial adverse impact. Maybe it might be a cumulative impact. You were talking about archaeological sites with archaeological artifacts on it. Say you had a site that you had a prior archaeological investigation that was done, and it said there were 100 things that were found there. And then you're reviewing something and they now say, oh, there's only 50. How would you look at that? Would you make would you figure that something happened to those other 50, something else might happen to the next 50 that are left, and call that a cumulative impact? Or how would that planning look at that?
Well, we rely heavily on the State Historic Preservation Division, who has, people, doctors of archaeology and history that to review that. So if you're saying that, say there was an AIS, archaeological inventory survey, that called out 100 sites, and then an updated 125 years later called out 50 sites, SHPD would want to know where those other 50 sites had went, and as would we, because I would review past information and take a look at that. I mean, when someone submits an SMA major, we really ask for a lot of information. It's my job to go through all of that. So I'd look at not only the past work or past approvals. Maybe they got an old SMA permit and never followed through with it, or they did an AIS in the past, and then what's recent. And I would call that out, but it really falls to SHPD as the regulatory authority for those types of situations to set some kind of, like ask the question, like what happened? And if there was violations, illegal destruction of those sites, well, then it would fall to the state to regulate that. But I would not let that just go through without asking the state to say, to opine on that. Say, hey, look, they said 100, and now 20 years later they said 50. What's going on? And I might even go out to the site myself with the old map and say, oh, look, here's a new driveway that, we got permitted and that plowed through a number of sites. And then we'd pursue the enforcement action that way. But a lot of times we rely heavily on the state to kind of back us up when it comes to that. We just don't have the experience to deal with that. And again, that's why this, SHPD is as important as they are. And we have on-island people that we can call.
And if the state said, yes, there used to be these other 50, now they're gone, would that be considered a cumulative impact or an adverse, and push it over the line back into needing a use permit?
It could be. And again, that could fall to the director.
So case by case.
It is kind of a case by case. I mean, we really try, there are some standard metrics to measure impacts and adverse impacts, but at the end of the day, every project, we have to kind of look at it as a case by case basis.
Okay.
And then that's why SMA can be so challenging, because it's, and it's hard to be a consultant in the SMA because everything is different all the time. Some places, some projects might be very similar, but then others, you're right, you kind of have to really take a delve. And then I reach out to the state. I used to work for DLNR, so I reach out to the state, no hesitation. I will call them up and say, hey, this doesn't make sense to me. Where is everything? And they'll jump on it. Our county guys and SHPD are great. And they really step up, especially when it comes to enforcement or illegal actions. So, so that's
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Yes, I have 2 questions on, I know there's a setback of 40 feet, but tsunamis, it might be, some areas might be more susceptible than others. Is there say on the windward side, if, could we ask for more of a setback if historically, there's been tsunamis in the past?
Yeah, I mean, tsunami inundation is not part of, you'll see as part of the definition of the shoreline. They actually took that specifically out because tsunami inundation, depending on the size, could go, very far inland. I'm reminded of, I took a class a long time ago with FEMA, regarding coastal community resiliency. And they had talked about how they discovered these stones in Japan high up in a valley, way high up, 700, 800 feet up into the valley. And the stones had marked, and they said specifically, do not build below this line. And then you look below the line and there's a big town. That lost knowledge. But what they had learned is that tsunamis can go and they get pinched into valleys and go very high. So setting a setback from the tsunami is very challenging. And I think that's part of the reason why, maybe Chico could touch on it, why they kept it out of the definition of the shoreline. But what I think falls to PC a lot of times is the tsunami evacuation plan. People safely get out. Can everybody in the area safely get out? And I know we've been pushing that more and more on this side with projects. Is the evacuation clear? And does it fit? Is everybody funneling to a 2-lane road, or are we getting on the highway and up? So that's definitely something that you guys have the authority and responsibility to question. Tsunami evacuation for new projects, especially near the shoreline, a new hotel, which you'll be hearing, or, new residences, building up these residences. Can everybody get out of Puako safely and out? And these are things, that's definitely questions you can ask.
Okay. And my second question is about wastewater systems. Are they required to put it in the back of the property, or, is that a rule that you might?
The only rule regarding that is DOH's rule, which is 50 feet from the shoreline. So we make sure that rule is followed. Other than that, we have no real authority or rule that says you have to be, your septic has to be in the back. So we set that shoreline, and then it has to be at least 50 feet per DOH from that shoreline. We always ask, and I always tell people, personally, and I always try to meet with development applicants, landowners, before the first shovel goes in the ground, to tell them, my story and what I think they should try to do, based on my experience only. I can't force them to do anything, but I'll be honest, I try to scare them a little bit, say, hey, look, this is the reality. With great views comes great responsibility. When you live on the shoreline, you really have to take it seriously. It's not like other places. And we deal with a lot of people from the mainland who just have no idea, or come from landlocked states that they just don't know what it's like to live next to the largest ocean on the planet, But in that sense, yeah. So,
thank you.
yes, sir.
I have one more.
Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Dean. Oh,
Just one more question. Could I ask Ms. Mendez and Mr. Lee to come back up?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Alex, yeah, you can stay too.
What's that?
Maybe you can answer this question as well.
Oh, no, we'll come up.
So while you guys are getting seated, so that just really quick, we don't want to go too long, but I noticed that, only the city and county of Honolulu, the city council reviews the SMEs. And how efficient is that? And, here on the neighbor islands, yeah, we're different islands, but how different are we from the city and county of Honolulu?
Yeah, yes, that's a question not only from you, from the city county Honolulu themselves. They asked maybe last year, several years ago, the planning commission, city county Honolulu planning commission tried to be like you guys, become authority of SMA, but they're limited by the city county chart that define the function of their planning commission and advice body only, no authority to give some permit. That's why if they want just other island as a planning commission as a SMA authority, they had to amend their city county charter to make the planning commission function different. As you point out, what's the difference if go to city council, different with the planning commission? As I observed, council member is the elected officials, these are the public. You guys pick up by mayors from different districts, from these kind of things. It's different the concept already. But I will say planning commission is a kind of public participation compared to elected officials. But their authority hearing SMA issued the best resolution, always from the councils. That's why their SMA is called ordinance. Chapter 25, revised ordinance of Honolulu, ROH, chapter 25, SMA ordinance. SMA shoreline also called chapter 26, called shoreline ordinance, different from rules. So your county of Maui, the planning commission, is commission rules. So this is different. But as I said, they still rely on planning director recommendation. Their recommendation, planning director recommendation, really important findings for the council to make a decision, similar to you guys also. But as I say, the board is different.
I just wanted to say too, that on the monthly or roughly every month, the SMA planners from around the state, we get together online and have a meeting. And Shi Chow and the CZM and OP office runs that. And we have agendas. We kind of go through issues that each of the counties are facing. And we talk to each other. How do you deal with that? Well, how are you dealing with that? Or Shi Chow asks us all a question. Well, how are you guys facing this problem and dealing with this problem? So it's a great resource. So while we are different, every island is kind of different. Setbacks are different. Procedures are a little different. We all fall under the CZM umbrella. But we work together as a state to kind of solve problems as SMA planners, which is extremely helpful. So I just wanted to add that.
Yes, Alex mentioned, all 4 county planning department, we have regular, not say always, but we have a regular meeting or only for planning stuff. We share hotspots, we share specific examples, how to deal with kind of challenges. So that's really helpful information internally share each other. Since 2009, I have more this kind of meeting minutes. Really interesting for me to look back, also for county planners to see this information. All kinds of information, really, really interesting. But as Alex pointed out, we all under the 205A legal provision for this kind of things. For example, City County Honolulu before single family residency or SMA major trigger 343 requirement. That's only City County Honolulu ask for that. You say if it's SMA major permit, you have to go to 343 year procedures. The other county didn't do that. 343 trigger different from SMA, right? If not public land, public fund, they don't have a trigger. But City County Honolulu originally asked for all SMA major have to go to 343 year EIS procedures. That's why some single family residency property owner feel headache. Say, I'm the single family residency, become SMA major, then I go to a year process.
Yeah.
Right now they amended that since last year, March 3rd, 2023, they amended this part. Single family residency, no, even SMA major, no 343 requirement. Anyway, that's just a story for you to see.
If I could
Yes,
chime in.
Deputy Director.
So it's interesting, the authority difference between the different counties. Under 205 definitions, 205A, authority means the county planning commission, except in counties where the county planning commission is advisory only, in which case authority means the county council or such body as the council may by ordinance designate. The interesting difference between those two authorities is planning commission is under the executive branch, which requires allows for a contested case in the process. So it can take it a step further, whereas county council is under the legislative branch, and they do not have contested case options. And so you show up, you testify, and the council makes the decision. But you don't have the ability to file a contested case. And so, but again, going before the council is not an easy process either, as Shachal had mentioned. So it has its pluses and minuses, but it's really interesting how different the dynamic is in the different counties. I won't say, I can't guess, but maybe a certain percentage of SMA permits, we receive contested case petitions. So there is, I don't know if it's 30% or 20 or 50. You know, when development is happening along the shoreline in the SMA, people are concerned, and some people will go to the limit of filing a contested case and want to be a part of it. We're going through a few right now, actually, several through Leeward and one big one in Windward right now. But poor John, he's got an SMA permit that he's waiting to, and here we have this. So go easy on the poor guy. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I have one.
Oh, yes, excuse me.
I would ask that the slide, I think it's slide number 24, that you showed isn't in the packet and it's not in the online. So that slide needs to be provided to the commission.
Yeah,
It
we're
was
gonna,
the criminal.
there was a
provision.
mistake in the presentation because there was one for Windward and one for Leeward. So you guys didn't get the correct one. So I will make sure that you get the correct one.
Thank
for
you.
sure.
No further questions, but thank you so much. It was a wonderful morning of learning for all of us. We're
Thank you.
gonna take a short break, 15-minute break right now.
Then finish with John and then
Yeah,
lunch.
yeah.
Sounds good.
put your phones away. All right. So we're online now? Ready?
Yes, we're back.
We're back, okay. Okay, I'm gonna call us back to order then. And the time is 11:55. All right, we're going to just new business, introduce agenda item 1, the applicant Kona Hawaii Development LLC. Application for special management area use permit to develop 100-room hotel and related improvements using a partially completed foundation structure on a 1.76 acre parcel situated in the special management area. The subject parcel is located at 75-5868 Ali'i Drive, approximately 370 feet southwest of its intersection with Wailua Road, portion of Pu'a'a 3rd, Waiaha 2nd, North Kona, Hawaii TMK 37-5-018-011. This item has been deferred at the request of the applicant, but we will take public testimony for this agenda item, but we will not act on it at this time. Is there any public testimony either here or on Zoom? No.
No, Chair, there are no in-person testifiers.
Okay. So I'm going to introduce then agenda items 2 and 3. And even though we're going to take these agenda items 2 and 3 together, we will call for separate motions for actions. Okay. So agenda item number 2, I did. She said no. Okay. Agenda item number 2, applicant Vanessa Pearson, PL SMA 2024-000062, application for a special management area use permit to construct a 2-story, 5,200 square foot single-family residence with 6 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms and related improvements on a 13,781 square foot shoreline parcel within this special management area. The subject property is located in Kona Bay Estates on the Makai side of Kona Bay Drive, approximately 2,000 feet west of the intersection of Kona Bay Drive and Kaiwi Street, Kailua Airport, North Kona, Hawaii TMK 37-5-005-040. And the introducing agenda item number 3, applicant Vanessa Pearson, PL use 2024-000027, application for a use permit to operate a 5-bedroom bed and breakfast establishment within a proposed dwelling on a 13,781 square foot parcel in the single family residential 15,000 square foot zoning district. The subject property is located in Kona Bay Estates on the Makai side of Kona Bay Drive, approximately 2,000 feet west of the intersection of Kona Bay Drive and Kaiwi Street, Kailua Airport, North Kona, Hawaii, TMK 37-5-005-047. We're going to have a staff presentation by Mr. Roy.
Christian, is that working? The mouse? Mine's it's not working. So you might have to switch sides for me. Okay. Okay. So today we've got 2 for Vanessa Pearson, which is the SMA 2462, and then the concurrent use permit to go with that use 2427. Next slide. Okay, so we can see the location of the proposed project as was stated in the Kona Bay Estates. The red star marks the location of the proposed project. It's just Makai of the old Kona Airport recreation area. And it's a well-developed subdivision that's been there for some time, here just north of Kailua proper. Next. The applicant is wishing to construct a two-story, approximately 5,200 square foot, single-family residence that includes 6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, office, kitchen, dining, living, rumpus rooms, an elevator and laundry. County sewer and water, of course, are available to the subdivision and the site. They want to construct 3,100 square feet of accessory space, which includes lanai, storage, and a 2-car garage, and a pool and a spa, the pool being on the 2nd story. The dwelling is intended to be a primary residence for the live-in caretaker who will manage the bed and breakfast. So the bed and breakfast really encompasses only 5 of the bedrooms. So one of the bedrooms is specifically slated for the live-in caretaker. It'll accommodate 10 guests max. Breakfast may be provided and parking will all be on site. So there's 6 stalls set for the property. So there's no parking on the street. And then access to the site, of course, is via Kona Bay Drive, which is a private paved roadway. It's actually gated to get down there. Next. We could see the county zoning of the subdivision. I outlined the subject property in red. The subdivision, of course, is residential 15,000 square feet. And then you have some industrial with the Kona Airport and, of course, the commercial areas, Malka of that. Next. State land use, urban. Next. LUPEG has this as open, and while open does try to promote a single family residence is an allowable use in that. And again, that the whole area, including the park, is all in open for the GP. Next. They did get a shoreline certification. And what we know is that that shoreline certification, the red line there, this was done in 2017, is the Mackay face of a wall. It's not a seawall, but it's a kind of a retaining wall that was put in place some time ago as one of the portions of the public access. And so that wall actually acts as a 2-foot wide pathway. And you can walk the entire length of that subdivision on that wall. Mackay of that wall is a 20-foot easement that is also for lateral shoreline access all the way across there. So one good thing about this subdivision is that there is full and complete lateral shoreline access, and you can enter from both ends of that subdivision. So that's helpful. And this is in perpetuity. They're not allowed to build, and that also sets the shoreline and their 40-foot setback. Next. So here's a picture I kind of like to show everybody the shoreline. So I outlined the property in the yellow dash, and you can see that it kind of juts out in this location. Jeff and I actually had discussed, it's not really clear why, but most likely due to the geology that in this area, the shoreline was moved all the way out. But again, this sets the shoreline and the 40-foot setback for development. And as you can see, the parcel is undeveloped. Next. Here's kind of an overview of the properties near. So a lot of 2-story, a couple 3 stories, but most everything is 2-story. So this proposed project aligns with the character of this specific development. Next. And then backing all the way out, we can see the whole subdivision, and you can see that the majority of the lots have been developed. The 2 at the far north end, we've already permitted. You guys have heard that before. We did that under an SMA major. So you've seen this area before and have seen a project before. But just to kind of show that most of the area is completely built out already. Next. Here's the site plan. So just quickly take note of, I marked the 40-foot shoreline setback, which is that red dashed line on the left-hand side. So you can see their development is staying outside of that, which is, according to law. And all the development will be Malka of that line. Here you can see the first story and then the parking areas. Next. Here's the second story, and that second story pool I talked about. So the pool will be up on the second story. And then in the back, you can see the caretaker's, kind of caretaker's room. Yep, back there. And then again, we can see the shoreline, sort of, the 40-foot setback, and they're staying outside of that. Next. Thankfully, they did some 3D renderings. So on the left, I marked the shoreline. So it's kind of an oblique view of the property, of the project. And then the proposed dwelling, the picture on the right would be the view, what people would see from the water looking Malka. So pretty much standard and again, in line with the development that's in this area. So next. This is a view of Kona Bay Drive, which is on your left-hand side, kind of and the intersection of Kuakini Highway, looking north. So kind of a busy intersection, but you would enter Kona Bay Drive from Kuakini and drive towards the shoreline and into the subdivision. Next, so that yellow dash line is kind of from the last picture that takes you down into the subdivision. The gate is just above that baseball diamond. So from that point, the public can't drive any further. I didn't get any pictures of the road, sorry. But this just kind of showing you how you would get from Kuakini and then around to the side there. And in order to get, now there is access off that point to the north, but I did visit the site and most people appear to park at the old Kona Airport, that rec area, and there's, you know, plentiful access to the shoreline from there. In fact, I'll be taking CZM out there as one of our kind of site visits today. Next. So with that, the director is recommending for PL SMA 2024-000062 approval with the stated condition. And for PL use 2024-000027, also approval with stated conditions. And I can take questions.
Commissioner Naborikawa.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Roy. In the background report, it stated that the state sea level rise viewer showed the coastal portion of the subject properties within the 3.2 foot sea level rise exposure area and the 3.2 foot passive flooding area. Where is that on the property? Is it close to where the construction's going to happen or what? I didn't notice any lines on there.
Sorry. I didn't put the sea level, you know, from what I saw, there may be inundation along that point, you know, and we're talking that 3.2 passive flooding or flooding inundation is over the next 100 years. But the wall itself is kind of set as that shoreline. And this is one of those things I talked about where eventually there's going to be impacts from sea level rise.
Okay, so it's on the Mackay side of the
on the
seawall.
Mackay side,
Oh,
yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
it made it sound like, because it said it was on the
sorry.
subject property,
Yeah.
coastal portion of the subject property.
Yep, sorry.
Okay.
Coastal portion being that outside of the wall,
Okay.
Mackay of the wall.
Okay, because
Yes.
Excuse me, could I ask that we speak
Yeah.
one at a time
Oh,
because
sorry.
it's being recorded?
Okay. Yeah, because when I looked at the site plan, I looked at the subject property, the end of the subject property being that seawall, because it said that was, so I wasn't counting the portion to the Mackay side as subject property. Sorry about that.
Nope.
My second question is on the, so in one part of the background report, it says that there was no archaeological survey, but then in the applicant's submittal, it said that there were intensive archaeological surveys. Oh wait, no, I take it back. That was a condition. But that said that there were archaeological surveys done in 79, I believe, and 81. So does that basically, is it saying that there's nothing been done since 81?
Yeah, there was nothing done for this specific application because the previous development, which created the subdivision, allowed for grading, road construction, and the construction of that wall. That's when
Okay.
SHPD did their review. So a lot of times, and what we've been told, the SHPD, once they reviewed it, they don't want to see it again because they just would say their same thing. So the majority of the impact to that shoreline occurred when that was developed first. You could see that it was all graded, road, the wall. So an intensive investigation was done at that time, and we felt that that was sufficient. And again, as we've been told by SHPD, that once they opine on a project area, that's pretty much it. But with that said, we do always add that condition that during work, of course, if anything's found, they have to immediately stop and they'd have to, to deal with that.
Thank you. So yeah, I was a little confused because I wasn't sure when the seawall was constructed, but it was constructed during the time that they did all the other infrastructure improvements. That made sense that they would have looked at the whole property. My last question has to do with the Kona CDP. I think it's figure 4-8B talks about native vegetation. And in that figure, it also has a red dot and the scale's really bad. You can't find exactly where that red dot is, but it looks like it's near the area of that subject property. And then when you showed your aerial, there was that body of water on the adjacent property.
Yeah.
So it identified it
go
as an
back one, Christian.
anchor line pool. And I was wondering if that was correct on the CDP and where that quote anchor line pool might be in relation to the subject property. And if it's something that we need to be concerned about for this particular proposal.
Now, I know there are pools and other resources to the north that are part of the recreation area,
Okay,
but not on the subject parcel itself.
or close to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Now, with that said, the shoreline, as we know, is constantly changing. But we really focus on the area of potential impact, and that is on that parcel, and definitely on that parcel there is none. But in the area, I haven't fully investigated outside that, but I do know that there are incline resources to the north that are partially protected as being part of the reserve or the park area. But as I said before, my training that we don't have anything set up specifically for, but I do look at that, and I do look at the impacts on the parcel, and there would be no impacts to incline ponds from this project because there's nothing on the parcel or right adjacent to it.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you very much. And it was the scale made it really hard to tell exactly.
Yeah.
But then when that body of water popped up right next door, it's like, oh, is
Yeah.
that what they're talking about? So thank you very much for that clarification.
Yeah, and
No
I
question.
also want to point out that we could see that a number of these properties were developed prior to the 40-foot. So you can see that there are a lot that are 20 feet from the shoreline, and how close that actually is. So.
Yes, Commissioner.
Mr. Roy, I have a question about public access. Could we see the slide that shows the entire Kona Bay Estates
Next slide.
subdivision?
There you go.
Okay, so I frequent that area a lot. And I do understand that there's two beach accesses. One closer by the tennis courts, which is, I think it's about 2 lots away from the agenda item. And I know there's another one too, but I guess my question to you is, would that seawall be considered beach access?
Yes.
And not only pertaining to the agenda item, but would that entire seawall that goes the whole bay, is that considered public access?
It is. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring OP down there today, was to not only, because I've never walked the entire length, but the wall itself is a 2-foot wide pedestrian access. And then in front of that is a 20-foot wide beach pedestrian access. But you have every right to walk along that entire length of that wall. And that was set, and that is set in the subdivision map as an access point. It's 2-foot wide, but still. You'll see people enjoy that area. They'll sit on the wall. They have full access to that. It's not, people can't come in and say, oh, get off my, nope, it's not. That is part of the public access, and technically a 2-foot wide public access pathway. If somebody wants to walk that entire length, which is what I'm going to try to do today, and take a look to make sure that it's still open. This is my opportunity to kind of have the state come with me and we can kind of poke around and see if there are any issues, because it should be fully open, not only the wall, but the access in front, the 20 feet in front of the wall, Mackay of the wall.
So if it's beach access, then each property owner owns its beach access on their property.
Yeah,
Technically, right?
and that's pretty typical a lot of times with the lateral shoreline access. A lot of times lateral shoreline access goes through property boundaries. And they can't really, it's not really their land. They can't really do much with it. But it has to stay open in perpetuity. Like I said, it's part of that subdivision, as part of that set subdivision requirement.
Okay, I have further questions for the applicant.
Real quick,
Yes.
Chair. So on that point, Commissioner Al, there are also several Malcolm Mackay public accesses in this subdivision. So they park at the park, and there's accesses through the park to the subdivision. And then there's several, I don't know exactly if there's 3 or 4.
There's actually 2.
2. And then there's actual accesses through several properties. Yeah. Yeah. And then they can access them lateral. They do not allow vehicular access. There's a security guard shack that, so that's why parking would be at the park, and then they would come through and walk through. Thank you.
But like I said, when I went up there and did a site visit, I noticed a lot of people will go into the north side because it's a lot more open, you know, and there's more sand actually up there, whereas the shoreline in front of the subdivision is very rocky.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, yes, Commissioner De La Cruz.
Got a question, you know, just looking at other than just the public access to the beach, I noticed there's only, I think I've only been there 1 or 2 times at the beach, but I noticed, yeah, it is a private property, correct? And then, you know, 1 entryway going out. Has any of the residents there ever brought up any issue about another exit strategy just in case for evacuation and such?
No, that's something the consultant may be able to speak to, but yeah, this is one of those times where if we were having a tsunami, you know, evacuation would be through, you can imagine how many people would have to evacuate through that small road. But, you know, other than requiring an evacuation plan, which typically just outlines the roads that people take, you know, you know, that's maybe beyond or something Jeff could speak to. But no, nobody's ever brought up any concerns about, you know, evacuating. And you know, nobody from the public came today, but it's a well-established subdivision. So maybe people feel, you know, but for me, tsunamis and tsunami evacuation is serious business and needs to be considered. But at the end of the day, what is it? It really just outlines the pathway people would take Malca to get away from the shoreline.
Right.
One good thing is that typically 9 times out of 10, a tsunami coming towards Hawaii, we'd have a lot of time to prepare. It's only if we had a major earthquake on this island that created a tsunami that would, you know, essentially come back in minutes. So that's the one saving grace I think that that the Hawaii County relies on, is that we're going to have some time. But
And I got a follow-up question. I guess I brought this up in the past during the development in Puoko, because Puoko is also one road access. Developments that is happening there, machines that's going to be brought in and to, I guess, work on the item, agenda item. Will there be enough space for public access, or, you know, the residents to pass through that one single road with I guess, when the construction starts?
oh, for Puoko. So as road construction, yeah, in fact, I ran into some issues. Derek and I, my junior planner and I, had gone out to Puoko and we got turned around a few times. And one time we had to go all the way around to and come in through the resort to come in the back way through Puaco. So it was very challenging, but you know, the idea is that they've got that open now. But we can see that Puaco is being developed with much larger homes. More people are coming down there. But I'll be honest, the big issue that's facing Puaco right now is sewer and
Sewers.
septic.
Yeah.
And so roads don't seem to be a huge focus, you know, because they like to keep it. And some communities like a small, quiet road because they feel like it keeps their community small and quiet. But when it comes to transportation or access or evacuation, that can be a problem. But no, there's no plans other than just improving the road. When I spoke to DPW, to widen it or make additional access. The access out the south side of Puaco into the resort is typically locked, but they had opened it for the construction. So there is potential evacuation from the south side of Puaco, but I think coordination would have to be between the community and the resort to allow for, in an emergency, that gate to be open and people to be able to go north and south.
No, I'm talk about and this.
Oh, this one here.
This community here, you know, when developments, I mean, there's already development that already took place. Was there any issue with, you know, the equipment, you know, occupying too much of the roadside for the public to access or the community to access?
Yeah, they should not. We pretty much always tell them they cannot block access during construction, or they have to provide alternative access. Because yeah, we not take that as an excuse. Oh, we're doing construction, so we're going to block. No, you need to work around that. Keep access open, safe, or provide an alternative. That's pretty much the same thing. If you got to block it, and we've done that before. You know, there've been projects where they're working on it, but they've provided alternative, or they tell us and they go to the community, oh, we're going to close this for 2 days only from this date to this date. Please be advised. And then, you know, but yeah, that's a big one. We definitely don't want them doing that during construction.
And to be clear, it's pedestrian
It is,
access.
of course.
There's nothing
Yeah.
to do with vehicles.
No, we don't want vehicles. I don't want vehicles driving. Vehicles should not be anywhere near the shoreline. That really.
Right, but I
parking.
mean, in this particular scenario, you
Yeah.
have to go through the guard gate to even get in there. So you actually
Yeah.
have to live in the subdivision.
Yeah.
It's a very small subdivision. I don't know what the total amount is, but
Yeah.
it is a very.
Yeah, you can see the whole thing right there pretty
Yeah.
much. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, any other,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Is the homeowner gonna reside on the residence?
I don't know. You have to ask the consultant will come up and do his presentation. I don't know if that's going to be the live-in caretaker or not. Yeah,
Thank you.
it wasn't clear.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Roy. Yeah, we can get the applicant's presentation now. So we have Mr. Pippin, and we have someone online too, or? Yeah,
Yeah, Ms. Pearson is on Zoom.
on Zoom,
Yeah.
okay. So are we gonna put them up on camera, the Zoom person, Mrs. Pearson, are you online with us? Okay, here we go. You're gonna swear?
Yes, I am. I'm online just here.
Wonderful. And I think that Ms. Jackson, are you going to do the swearing in today? Is that right?
Tracy will be doing any Zoom testimony. But
Okay,
you-
so for today, I'll
you'll-
just do this.
You'll need to swear in the applicants.
Okay, so the presenter and the applicant, I'm just going to swear you in, so raise your right hands. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on this matter before the Leeward Planning Commission?
I do.
Great.
I do.
Speak directly into the microphone and state your name, the town you reside in, and whom you represent.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. My name is John Pippin with Land Planning Hawaii. I reside in Honoka'a. I'm here today assisting Vanessa Pearson. She lives in Australia with her husband on her 2 applications before you.
Thank you. And you've received all the background and the recommendation reports from the planning department? And
Yes. We have
Leeward.
reviewed the proposed conditions. We appreciate the work that's gone into these applications. We agree with the proposed conditions.
Okay, and then please proceed.
Thank you. Aloha, Chair DeFranco, Planning Commissioners. Thank you very much for being here today, for your time and attention and commitment to this process. It doesn't go unnoticed. It's interesting having an SMA application up right after this very detailed and lengthy discussion and training about all of the issues that could present themselves in an SMA application. So I'm prepared for tough questions should you have them. I relish the challenge, believe it or not. Being a consultant on a good day is never easy. Sometimes it's downright difficult, but my feeling of being ready comes from the work that we've done to get to this point. And I'm confident that with the proposed conditions from the planning department, those impacts from the proposed project are mitigated and are short-term in nature. So construction will follow construction best management practices. We're abiding by the 40-foot shoreline setback. The public access is protected there along that seawall-ish or that 2-foot wide shoreline access route. The project fits in with this community. It's consistent with the surrounding homes. To the questions from commissioners, Commissioner Rodriguez, this is not intended as the applicant's main primary residence. It will be a seasonal home, but it will be the primary residence of a full-time on-site caretaker. It will provide them housing and a job, and it will provide many visitors and residents of the island an opportunity to enjoy a beautiful home like this in a really nice spot. Commissioner Noborikawa, I'm not certain about that highlighted star in the Kona CDP, but I would point out that there is an important shoreline resource in the Kona Bay Estates subdivision. That's the Keiki Ponds tide pools, and they're a good distance to the south. You can see them in the aerial views, but quite away from the subject property. That's just like the name indicates, it's a great place for the little ones to splash in the water and not be thrashed by any waves. For public access, Commissioner Au, yes, I believe this project actually contributes to the maintenance of the public access there along the Mackay subject property boundary. It's in such a way that uncontrolled vegetation growth would potentially interfere. That's not going to happen when this property is developed with a home and maintained with landscaping, respecting that shoreline setback area and maintaining that important access route. I myself have parked there at the tennis courts and walked down through the subdivision and along the shoreline. It is open and unimpeded. It's a great little walk. Highly recommended. And Commissioner De La Cruz, for your comments regarding getting out and access throughout the subdivision. Chair DeFranco reflected that this is kind of a smaller subdivision, maybe a couple dozen lots and homes. The access road, Kona Bay Estates, goes right to Kuakini. And if you continue straight through that Kuakini intersection, you're basically at Target and, you know, those commercial and industrial areas right there. So it's a pretty quick way out to the main thoroughfares of Kona. So there's not a tremendous amount of traffic that would be added to the roadways and having to be evacuated in the rare event of a large tsunami. And although this project is supplying 6 parking spaces, I think it's pretty rare that 6 cars would ever actually come to this B&B. Whenever my family visits from the mainland, I make them rent a big van so we can all travel together and not, you know, take 4 or 5 cars. So I think that's going to be the case in most situations here. So with that, I appreciate your attention and ready to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioner Au.
Mr. Pippin, HOA question. There is an HOA.
Correct, yes.
On the property. And I'm just curious, does the HOA manage the seawall or is it the responsibility of the homeowner?
That's a great question. To my understanding, the responsibilities were laid out in that original subdivision SMA permit. And Mr. Roy, correct me if I'm wrong here.
I believe every homeowner is responsible for their section of wall. Essentially, now as far as repair of the wall, that I'm not sure, but it's keeping it open and clear.
Yeah.
Every homeowner has to make sure that their vegetation doesn't encroach onto the wall. But as far as wall repair, that I'm not sure if the HOA then would get together and repair sections of wall if needed be.
Okay, so how does that work? So you have a subdivision that they have a prior agreement, use permit and public access, and then now you have individual landowners that want to develop their property. I mean, I know what the answer is, but if you could just talk about it, and it trickles down to the landowner, correct?
Yeah, yes. I mean, the public pedestrian access is established by easement, and there are rights and responsibilities that go along with that. The grantor in this case would be the property owners, grantee would be whoever benefits from it, the county or the public. That said, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I believe they're part of the deed, deed for each property that they have to, that they can't affect that shoreline access.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, the shoreline setback is established here 40 feet from the Mackay face of that wall and that access pathway. So we're not proposing any structures or any uses in that area. It will be landscaped consistent with the surrounding properties. So maintained of vegetation, stopping them from encroaching and impeding that walkway.
And that wall, the wall is there. It's an existing
Yes.
wall that's there.
Yes, you can see it on the aerial photos and the site photos.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Rodriguez.
Yes, I have a question, and I don't know who to address it to. In order to have a bed and breakfast, are you supposed to reside in the home or?
I can answer that question.
Yes, please.
So under 2547, an owner or operator can reside on the property. In this particular case, they're proposing an operator. The unique thing about this is it's occurring during a time where the council is entertaining two bills. One bill to regulate what we call transient accommodation rentals or TARs. And that is both unhosted, where a operator or owner does not reside on site, or hosted, where an owner or operator does reside on site. In this process, they were initiating another bill, Bill 122, that they were going to delete bed and breakfasts out of the code, because a hosted rental or a hosted TAR is very similar to a bed and breakfast. At this time, there's been a lot of public testimony that they really like the concept of B&B, bed and breakfast. And so now there's discussion of keeping that proposal in the code. And that's occurring right now. Until that bill gets passes, applicants have the ability to apply for what's available at this time, which are bed and breakfasts. And what is unique about that is there are no registration fees. there's no yearly fee that accompanies a hosted or unhosted TAR if it is approved, because those will require those fees. So this applicant was one of those that were able to submit, be put on the agenda prior to these two bills being adopted. But again, to answer your original question, yes, you can have an owner or operator on site.
Yeah, thank you.
Could I perhaps add on to that
Yes.
response? Kona Bay Estates has a pretty high percentage of short-term vacation rental non-conforming use certificates. Many of these homes are used as short-term vacation rentals without any operator or host on site. Just reflecting that in this
That's a
area.
good point, John. And the reason why that's important is because when Bill 108 or what we call short-term vacation rent right now, short-term vacation rentals, SDVRs, was adopted in our code, it gave 1 year for applicants that had been operating prior to the adoption of the law to come in and get what we call a non-conforming use certificate or a NUC to allow them to continue. If they were in an area that wasn't identified as a permitted area. This particular area is zoned residential. It was not located within an area identified for resort uses in the general plan. So it was not in a permitted area. So they had to apply for NUCs. And as John mentioned, there's a number of applicants or owners in that area that received that. Interesting at this time in the updated proposed general plan draft, there is a recommendation to put a sliver of general plan land use pattern allocation guide map designation of resort in this particular area, which would mean that if it passes, that these properties, even they wouldn't need to come in for a B&B or they would be in a permitted zoning. So at any time, an owner could apply to become a registered or TAR, either hosted or unhosted.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions? No other questions, and I need a motion for action. Oh, excuse me.
Sorry. I guess this is to the applicant or return. It was mentioned that the caretaker will be residing in the residence, right?
Correct.
You know how many staffings will be residing in the property to accommodate for the I guess it's like a 6-bedroom in there, right?
I could defer to Vanessa. I don't know the exact number of staff they propose. Did you catch that question, Vanessa?
Did, we're just proposing one person to live in the house as the operator.
And so you'll be operating a bed and breakfast, so that person will be basically maintaining the property and also servicing the guests as well.
That person will be servicing the guests rather, and up to their capacity, as in there will be external cleaners and things like that, and yard maintenance people.
Okay, so you'll have outside contractors coming in to service the property.
Yes, perhaps for the pool and those yard more specialist type things.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And we haven't heard from you, Ms. Pearson. Did you want to speak to us today too, please?
Actually, I just wanted to thank everyone for their time. I can see a lot of work has gone into this. So thank you very much. There wasn't any particular statement I wanted to make other than to mention that you're probably detecting I have an Australian accent. I'm married to an American who has been coming to the island for a decade and a half on a regular basis. And we feel very much part of the community there in Kona.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pippin. Are there any other questions for commissioners? Okay. So then we're going to have a motion for action.
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Neither on Zoom or here. Okay. Yes,
I'm prepared to make a motion if you're ready for one.
yes.
Okay, I move that the application for special management area use permit docket number PL SMA 2024-00062 be approved based on the planning director's recommendation, which shall be adopted.
Thank you. I need a second.
Second.
Second, so Commissioner and Commissioner De La Cruz. So now we're going to have a discussion.
I do want to make a comment.
Yes.
I live in an HOA. I live in a condo that has an HOA, and I like the fact that this HOA, if it is true that, you know, they're sensitive to the community, you know, and having that wall is very unique. To have that wall go through every single beach shoreline property, I think that's huge. You know, like I mentioned before, I frequent the area. And I've never walked the whole wall. But you know, I've gone to both of those public accesses, and I cross Kona Bay Road, and I just walk right in, and it's a beautiful beach. It's very accessible. And I think it's great that the HOA requires their landowners to do that when they build. So I just want to make that comment to my fellow commissioners.
Commissioner De La Cruz, you have, no? Okay, thank you. So are there any other comments or discussion? I just wanted to quickly say that, you know, I've lived here for a very long time, and this community, this small subdivision that is there, you know, you talked about evacuation, you know, this is a straight shot up to the highway, 2 highways, and it's not, you know, there's not a huge amount of population in there. There are businesses in there, and you've got Macy's, but if something were to happen, it is a straight shot as far as evacuation goes that I can see, and certainly not very far even to walk up there. But anyway, that is a concern. Okay, so no other discussion. We're going to have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Au,
Aye.
Commissioner De La Cruz,
Aye.
Commissioner Noborikawa,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Chair DeFranco.
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 votes.
Then I'm going to ask for a motion of action for PLUSE use 2024-00027.
Motion. I make that motion.
Okay.
Should I read it out loud?
Commissioner, we need a second.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read the motion just to make it
Thank
official.
you.
I move that the application for use permit docket number PLUs 2024-00027 be approved based on the planning director's recommendation, which shall be adopted.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Noborikawa.
Can I make a comment real quick, Madam
Yes,
Chair?
please.
I think this use is very appropriate for the area. I like what Mr. Darrow said, that if it does become zoned as such, then, you know, the landowners don't have to go through this process. They can just go ahead and do it. You know, like I said just a little while ago, that it is very appropriate. You know, we want our visitors to have a great experience, and we want them to come back because we want them to patronize our community and our economy. And that area is very appropriate, and I support the motion.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Just wanted to
Yes,
comment.
Commissioner De La Cruz.
You know, for a person myself in supporting labor, just, you know, consideration for Ms. Pearson, you know, she just look in the I guess the overall competitive job rate, wage rate and in the community around the area. I mean, it's just a consideration. just to looking at the equal pay in regards to the staffing that you'll be bringing in, or the workers that's going to be bringing it to service the property. So just a comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Rodriguez?
I'd just like to make a comment, like, in the, they mentioned that in the general plan that, they want to put in a little paragraph about bed and breakfast, they don't have to go through the process. And I kind of disagree with that. I think, if I buy a residential area and I buy a, residential lot, I want to raise a family there. I don't want, somebody putting in a hotel next to me or something like that. So I think, we have to, in my opinion, I think we have to keep it either residential or hotel or, thank you.
Thank you. I think that what he said is in the general plan, the zoning might change in that area. And in the change of adding it as a resort area, then it makes it available for them not to have those things. But that's a designation, a change in the zoning, and that's in the general plan. Is that right, Deputy?
Close.
Close, okay, thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, we right now, there's a lot of letters going out to the community regarding changes being proposed on the general plan land use pattern allocation guide map, where it might have been, resort and it's changing to conservation or recreation or something. And we get a lot of, pretty concerned people calling saying, what is this doing? Is this changing my zoning? It's an overall layer, a land use layer that we use when we make decisions, and it's there for our long-range plan and long-range decisions. So it doesn't change the zoning, but it allows, in the future, if somebody wants to do something and it lines up with that general plan land use pattern allocation guide map, it will be what we call consistent with the general plan. One of the permitted areas in STVR code right now, and also proposed in the Bill 121, is if you're a single family residential zoned lot, and you're located in an area identified in the general plan LUPEG map as resort, you're in a permitted zoning area for TARs. And so it allows them to not have to register as a NUC or go through a use permit. They can just apply at any time through a registration. So that's the difference. It's more of an overlay before you do the next step, which could be zoning or whatever the next step may be.
Thank you for clarifying that. So, Commissioner Rodriguez, if you're in a family residential, his concern was if then it would not be next to a hotel, right? I mean,
no, his concern is one of many that are being brought up through Bill 121. So that's something, right now, what this applicant is doing has been available since as long as I've been with planning, bed and breakfasts, going through a use permit in a residential zone. But this idea of transient accommodation rentals being permitted in residential zonings, what's being proposed that if you are an owner or operator in these zones, you can do something similar to this. And there's guidelines, there's principles, the good neighbor principle and all these things. But again, that has not been approved yet, but it's going through hearings now. So I would recommend, if that is something you feel strongly about, that you want to attend those and provide comments.
thank you. Thank you for that clarity. Any other comments or discussion? All right, we're going to call for a roll call vote, please.
Okay, this is for the PL use 2024-27. Commissioner O,
Aye.
Commissioner Nobukawa,
Aye.
Commissioner De La Cruz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Chair DeFranco.
Aye,
Motion carries with 5 votes.
thank you. You can.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Enjoy the
you.
rest of your
Thank you,
day.
Ms. Pearson, and thank you, Mr. Peppin.
Aloha.
And you'll
Thank
be
you.
writing. Question about this consent agenda item report deferred.
Yes.
And why isn't it stops here? I don't. Okay, should I read it?
Okay.
Where is it?
On the agenda.
Sorry, I just wanted to read agenda item number 4, even though we're not going to hear it today. It's been deferred. I still need to read it. Okay, do you want to read it? Because I can't see that. Yeah. Yeah, so agenda item number 4 was applicant Javi Nani LLC PLSLU -2024-000010. Application for a state land use district boundary amendment from agriculture to urban for 14 acres, 14,000. Sorry, I'm sorry, 14.629 acre portion of a larger 33.655 acre parcel of land. The subject property is located on Harvey Road, approximately 630 feet north, Mackay, of its intersection with Akaonipuli Highway. Portions of Pahoa to Kahea, North Kahala, Hawaii, TMK 3, 5-5-008-007. And this item has been deferred at the request of the applicant. We can still take public testimony for this agenda item, but we will not act on it at this time.
Chair DeFranco, we have no in-person testimony.
And Zoom, no, neither?
Chair DeFranco, we don't have any Zoom testifiers.
Okay, then, thank you. That matter has been deferred. Okay, so now we're moving on to Planning Director's report, the report on Hawaii County Council Resolution number 203-23, adopting the County of Hawaii Integrated Climate Action Plan. The Integrated Climate Action Plan was distributed via email. Do you have any questions for the staff, commissioners? No questions? The report on special management SMA determinations and minor permits issued by the planning director, the SMA report for September, was distributed via email. Do any of the commissioners have any questions? No. Agenda items for the next meeting. Do any of the commissioners have any matters they'd like to agendize for future meetings? Seeing none. Okay, announcement. The Leeward Planning Commission next regular meeting is scheduled for Thursday, November 21st, 2024, here in the County Council Chambers in Kona. The public can also testify via Zoom. The date and venue of the meeting are subject to change. And staff, do we have any other announcements to make?
Yes, thank you, Chair DeFranco. So as you mentioned, your next regular meeting will be on November 21st. We will have a special meeting that morning for the commission to hear the general plan, and that meeting will start at 9:30, and it will go from 9:30 to 11:30. And then we will break for lunch and start your regular meeting at noon. You have 9 items tentatively scheduled for your regular meeting.
Oh.
So it's
At
gonna be
all.
a very long day. And then we've also tentatively scheduled a special meeting the next day to continue hearing the general plan.
Thank you. All right, if we have no further business, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion by
Second.
Commissioner Au, seconded by Commissioner De La Cruz. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposition? No. This meeting is adjourned at 12:55.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
The closed captions transcript will be terminated shortly, and those who wish to save the transcript should do so now.